In JavaScript, semicolons can cause a few very unexpected bugs. In this video, I will show you 3 of these bugs and how to solve them. This JavaScript code is hiding a really tricky bug. Can you see it? Let's go through the code line by line and see what happens. First, we declare a function. Then, we call the function. So we go into the function, we return the string hello world, we store it inside of a constant, and finally, we print it. The constant is hello world, so JavaScript should print hello world, right? If we run the code, however, it will print undefined, so something is wrong. The problem is that behind the scenes, JavaScript is doing a really small modification that completely changes the meaning of our code. The bug is caused by a feature of JavaScript called automatic semicolon insertion. Every time JavaScript thinks that we forgot a semicolon, it will write one for us. Now, the weird thing is, in our code, we wrote all the semicolons. So, where is JavaScript adding a semicolon? In the function, we have our semicolon after the return, our const statement has a semicolon, and our console.log has a semicolon too, so there are no missing semicolons. And yet, JavaScript writes one anyway, right here. Why? The answer is that JavaScript is always looking for missing semicolons, even when we write every single semicolon. In our case, when we say return without anything else and then a new line, JavaScript assumes that we forgot to write a semicolon after the return, and so it will write one for us, even if this is not what we want. The result is that we have a lonely return statement, and by default, it returns undefined. Then, the line with hello world will never be run, and this is why our code prints undefined. The solution to this bug is very easy. Never write a new line after the return keyword. The next buggy code is this one. Seems fairly trivial, right? We declare a constant a that has a value of 2 and a constant b that has a value of 3. However, this is not what happens. B is a global variable, not a constant. Why? Because in this case, JavaScript is not able to figure out that the declaration on the next line should also be a constant. In fact, JavaScript assumes that we forgot a semicolon right here, and it will write it for us. So the result is that in the first line, we declare a constant a that has a value of 2, and in the next line, we declare a global variable b that has a value of 3. When we don't write const, let, or var, we are declaring a global variable which is accessible from anywhere. To fix this bug, always specify whether a variable is supposed to be a constant using const, a block scope variable using let, or a traditional function scope variable using var. You can also declare global variables by not writing anything before the name of the variable, but in practice we almost never need to declare global variables. This code contains the third bug. We start by declaring a constant called test, and we say that the value of test is this anonymous function that prints bug. Notice that we never run this function, we only create it. Then we have another function between parentheses, and we call this function using these final open and close parentheses. This second anonymous function prints hello world. Since we only call the second function, the code should print hello world, right? However, when we run it, the code prints bug. Why? The problem is, again, JavaScript and semicolons. In this case, we didn't write a semicolon after our first anonymous function, and the next symbol is an open parenthesis. So, JavaScript assumes that we are using this set of parentheses to call our first anonymous function, and so it will not add a semicolon. In other words, JavaScript reads the code like this. We declare a constant called test, and the value of test is whatever this anonymous function returns when we call it with this one parameter, which is the other anonymous function that logs hello world. To fix all of this mess, we just write a semicolon here, or some people like to write it here, but the result is the same. Now JavaScript knows that this parenthesis is not used to call the anonymous function we created before, And so, our code prints hello world. The function between parentheses is called a self-executing function. This syntax is rare in modern JavaScript, but if you are looking at older code, you might see it here and there. It was used in the past to hide variables declared with var before block scopes were available. If you want to learn more about scopes, I linked a video about it in the cards and in the description. Otherwise, if you want to see more JavaScript bugs and how to solve them, I highly recommend you to watch this video I made where I will show you 3 very common bugs in JavaScript and how to solve them. Leave a like if you learned something. I'm Jay. Bye.